Hi, my name is Ron Labelle. I'm the Commissioner of Public Infrastructure for the City of New Bedford, and one of my responsibilities is to oversee the water treatment plant and our distribution of water to the City of New Bedford and our intermunicipal partners. I'm standing out here on a causeway in Lakeville. That's the difference between two of our ponds, Parkshire Pond and Great Quiticus. We have a series of ponds out here, 5 great ponds, which is Little Quiticus, Great Quiticus, Parkshire, Assawamsett, and Long Pond, that is the largest natural supply of water in the state of Massachusetts. Of the 5 ponds that the city draws water from, it's roughly 6,000 acres of surface area of water and roughly 18 billion gallons of water that's available to us. Through numerous drought seasons that I've experienced, we've never had a problem with our water supply, which is unique. And when you look at the needs of the large communities that we service and our fire supply capabilities, that's a very, very positive attribute to our community. We supply water to roughly 120,000 people with the city itself in intermunicipal agreements with Dartmouth, Fairhaven, Acushnet, and Freetown. I was asked the question recently, which sort of prompted us to do this program. How does water come out of my faucet? And a lot of people really don't know exactly how that happens. You go into your bathroom or into your kitchen and you open up the faucet and the water comes out under pressure, typically 40, 50 pounds of pressure. And it all starts here at these ponds. We draw raw water out of the ponds. We treat it, we filter it, we polish it, we chlorinate it. We pump it to a High Hill Reservoir, which is one of the highest elevations in the area. It's roughly about 160 feet by elevation above mean high tide. And that provides the head pressure as the water flows by gravity into the city that produces the pressure that makes the water come out of the faucets. It's a simple process, but a very, very complicated operation to operate and maintain. Part of the pond complex that the city draws water from is our watershed area. Uniquely, the city for well over 100 years now, probably closer to 180 years, the city's been purchasing property out here on the watershed. Our watershed's about 50 square miles, and we own roughly 3,000 acres of that watershed, which is paramount to us for the protection purposes of the quality of the water. We don't want to see development out here. We don't want to see homes being built that are there's no sewerage out here, so everybody uses septic systems. So for the quality of the water and the safety of the public, we purchase and continue to purchase watershed property, to slow down the advancement of developments. The city right now is permitted through the state to withdraw 20.79 million gallons per day. Our treatment plant process will handle up to 45 million gallons per day, and the city's actively looking to be a general supplier, a regional supplier of water to multiple communities. On an average day, the city during the summer will probably treat about 18 to 20 million gallons a day, and in the winter months, somewhere between 11 and 14 million gallons a day.
Hello, hi, I'm Charlie Kennedy, Assistant Superintendent of the New Bedford Department of Public Infrastructure Water Division, and we're at the Quiticus water treatment plant, and we're in the raw water pump station, what we call the low lift pump station right now. This building's 100 years old and originally was fitted with steam energy driven pumps that pumped water from Little Quiticus Pond into the city of New Bedford. Presently, it's been through a couple of revisions, and now it's electrically fitted, and basically its function is to pump water to our water treatment facility. And from there, we treat it and pump it into the city of New Bedford. We have 4 electric pumps here, each capable of putting out 22 million gallons per day. Presently, we're using around 12 million gallons per day. The other main feature in this building is the emergency generator that we have here, and is capable of running our whole treatment facility. Comes in is critical for us during cases where we'd have hurricanes. Originally, the generator's was designed to serve a submarine, I believe a Trident submarine. It was a leftover, and the city was able to secure it. It's really larger than we need, but that's good that we have something that's capable of handling it. It's a Fairbanks Morse 12-cylinder engine, and has been a good unit for us over the last 25 years. We're looking at the map of our water resource, our drinking water supply. Actually, we're located right at the foot of Little Quiticus Pond. That's where we draw water from. We have 5 ponds, Great Quiticus, Pocksha, Assawampsa, and Long, making up our water supply. And fortunate for us, these ponds were secured back in the 1890s to allow us to be able to draw out of these from these ponds, this pond system. The green area on the map is what we call the watershed area, and basically, when it rains, the water collects into the stream, to the streams, and the streams feed in through tributary brooks into the ponds. Large one is Fall Brook in Freetown. Another one is Black Brook in Middleborough. Actually, the area encompasses Freetown, Middleborough, Rochester, and Lakeville. We've got approximately 5,800 acres of pond system here, and fortunately, they're all tied together, and we're able to access water from all 5 ponds. We draw it out. At that point, after we treat it at the water treatment facility, we then pump it into the city of New Bedford, and the yellow line shows the pipeline. It goes actually to the High Hill Reservoir in the town of Dartmouth, which is basically the highest point in the area. By there, by gravity, it feeds out through a couple of pipelines into New Bedford. We also have a line that comes directly into the north end. So we're feeding New Bedford three different ways. New Bedford's a long, narrow city that we serve with adequate pressure, and also parts of Acushnet. We have about 7,000 customers in Acushnet that we serve. And we also serve parts of Dartmouth on a seasonal basis, and Freetown along the way. We're in Freetown as we travel the pipeline, and there's about 500 customers that we serve in the town of Freetown. The ponds are in the what we call the Taunton River drainage basin, whereas the city flows southward with natural water. Our pond system flows northward, and out of the top end of Assawampsa Pond is the start of the Nemasket River. That's the natural drainage of the pond system. Nemasket River flows through Middleborough into Bridgewater, ties into the Taunton River, and essentially goes south from there through Fall River and into the Mount Hope Bay. One other note too, not only do we draw from the ponds, but the city of Taunton has a pump station on Assawampsa Pond where they draw also from the pond system. But if no one were drawing any water at all, the ponds would flow northward into the Nemasket River and out that way. So it's curious that we're at that boundary line where our water from the pond system does flow northward. We're in our control room at the water treatment facility, and essentially the most important feature in here is our computer system where we monitor our treatment process. On the screen right now I have the raw water pump station where we were earlier, and we're monitoring the depth of what we call the wet well, the water level that's coming in from the pond. And these are the low lift pumps essentially that are pumping the water to the treatment facility. Right now we're pumping at a rate of around 13 million gallons a day that we're drawing out of the pond. That's just an overview screen. We then come to the overview screen of the main treatment facility. Here we treat with several chemicals. We have analyzers that are measuring. For instance, right now, leaving the plant, we're putting out about 2 parts per million of chlorine going into the water that's going into the city. That's a normal level that we have in order to properly disinfect the water. We also show our filters. We've got 6 filters that filter the water and clean it up. And essentially, once we do that, we then chlorinate it, and that's where the 2 part per million chlorine is applied that's going out. Another item that we add, another chemical, is fluoride. We monitor that continuously. We try to keep that below 1 part per million. Right now it's 0.85 parts per million of fluoride that's in the water. Those are the main things. We do pump the water after we've treated it, and we're running the #1 pump presently, and it's running at a constant speed of about 11.4 million gallons per day that's leaving the facility presently. Most of this water gets pumped to the High Hill Reservoir, and we can click on that, and that's 8 miles away, but we can tell you that we have 19 feet of water in the storage reservoir up there. And from there, by gravity, the water flows into the city. We keep track of water flow there, and right now, through the 2 pipes that are leaving, essentially, if you added it up, it's around 15 million gallons of flow that are leaving the reservoir going into New Bedford. We do add a small amount of chlorine to get the levels back up to where they should be, and they're running at about 2.2 parts per million chlorine going into New Bedford. And that's the main function of the monitoring system. You can also look at the water tower on Hathaway Road. We'll monitor the level of that. We control how much water is going in. Right now we have 104 feet of storage there from ground level. That helps provide adequate pressure for the residents that live around the Rockdale Avenue area, where the elevation is higher than the main elevation of the city. The person that monitors this treatment facility is certified as a drinking water treatment plant operator with the state of Massachusetts, and indeed he's here to keep the levels of the chlorine, the fluoride, in their proper operating ranges that have been set. And so if that's out of range, he will adjust a chemical feed pump, whether it be chlorine or fluoride, ammonia, or even our pH chemical, soda ash. He will adjust so that it stays in ranges. He not only depends on monitors, but every 3 hours he actually collects water samples at given locations to confirm that the monitors, the analyzers, are reading properly. And so that's his primary function, to make sure that the treatment system, proper chemical levels, are being dosed into the water. The facility is staffed all the time that we're treating water, and we treat water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, so it is staffed consistently. We have 2 staff, 2 schedules, 12-hour schedules, shifts, in which we have operators here at that time. And so we are staffed constantly. We monitor continuously, and never is it unstaffed while we're treating water. While we're at it, just one other section of the city. It's kind of a bit of a busy screen there, but in the far north end, just a couple of years ago, we put in a booster pump station to provide a better pressure for the far north end residents. And presently, we're putting out about 60 psi, 60 pounds per square inch of pressure, so that we do have a more adequate pressure for the north end also. Okay, we're out at we're on the treatment basins at the main treatment facility, and essentially the water from the pond, pumped from the low lift pump station, comes directly to these treatment basins, and we go through the treatment process. We add a couple of chemicals to the pond water to help to treat it and settle it and filter it. And the first thing we add is lime, which is a natural compound, calcium hydroxide. We add a small amount, 3 parts per million lime to the water. Once we do that, that elevates the pH and the alkalinity, which is necessary for proper treatment. Once that's done, we then add what we call a coagulant chemical called aluminum sulfate or alum. And once we do that, we form what we call flock particles. The alum reacts with the natural organic solids that are in the pond water and create flock particles. At that point in time, the flock particles enlarge and they get large enough where they will settle. We then run the water through settling basins where most of the particles settle out. There's always a small amount of fine suspended matter that doesn't settle too readily. And that's the reason we have filters. We have filters after that made of anthracite coal and sand, approximately 40 to 50 inches of filter material. The water gravitates vertically through the filters and comes out the other side nice and clear. At that point, it's ready to be disinfected. We then add chlorine to the water, and at that same time, we add fluoride. The water then goes to a large 2 million gallon storage area where the chlorine is allowed to have contact time with the water to create proper disinfection. After that's done, the water is ready to be pumped into the city. One last thing we do add is a product called soda ash. It's very similar to sodium bicarbonate or baking soda. It elevates the pH once again somewhat more so that the water is now not corrosive, not very corrosive. And the reason for that is so when water runs through iron piping and lead service connections, we minimize the amount of metal that we would leach out of the piping so that the water stays in a healthy condition. One other thing we do add is a small amount of ammonia with the chlorine as it's leaving the plant, and that allows the chlorine to stay in a stable form so that we have a proper disinfectant level for the chlorine as it goes through the long, narrow distribution system in the city of New Bedford, and allows us to have adequate disinfection throughout the whole city.
A couple of years ago, the city of New Bedford received an ARA grant, which was, we received basically 50% of the funding to renovate the Quiticus water treatment plant. The renovation was geared towards energy efficiency. So, you know, what we did with the roughly $6 million that we got from ARA funding was we replaced all the skylights in the building, all the glass, all the doors, the 2 power plants for heat, and one of the unique installations that we put in place here was we put in PV cells or photovoltaic cells, which was the first phase of our energy efficiency program out here at Quiticus. The goal is to be able to run the treatment plant solely off of solar power. Right now with the cells that we've installed, we have a roughly 2% capacity here. We typically use about 6 million to 7 million kilowatt hours at the treatment plant. The second phase of this will be to install enough PV cells out here in an area in the back, which is about a 15-acre site, to be able to fuel the entire facility off of solar power. It's a project that we have on a drawing board for the near future, and we're really looking forward to it. It'll be a great project for the city, and and for our operation and for energy efficiency. The electric bill here is roughly just under $1 million a year. And then you couple that with the rest of what we're responsible for. My electric bill, system-wide, water, wastewater, pumping stations, and other various facilities is a little over $4 million a year. And we're looking, for instance, at our office building on Shawmut Avenue, we're installing photovoltaic cells on all the roofs as we speak. That's an energy efficiency program that the city's undertaking citywide. Public infrastructure is probably the 3rd largest consumer of electricity in the municipal world in the city, with all of our facilities. I think School is the largest, and I think street lights is the second largest, and my department's the third largest. So energy efficiency is sort of that low-hanging fruit that we want to go after. I don't want to make the drinking public in the city of New Bedford nervous, but we don't use these pipes anymore. But this is sort of a collector's item, and actually I did come out of the ground in the city of New Bedford. This is an old wooden cypress water transmission pipe wrapped with with metal that used to be used to transmit water somewhere in the city from point A to point B. This was probably put in the ground in the late 1700s, early 1800s. A lot of work to make this pipe and a lot of work to get it in the ground, but it did work. As time progressed through the ages, cities like New Bedford, old coastal communities started using cast iron piping. And what you see here, and I'll pick it up a little bit so you can see this. This was a pipe that was pulled out of the ground. It's what we call a coupon. And you can see it's a 6-inch pipe, and this came out of Hillman Street just west of Rockdale Avenue. The city has aggressively been replacing old systems like this, and what you see here is sediment buildup probably over 110 years of the lifetime of this pipe. And the danger, and this isn't dangerous to anybody. It's actually just organics in the pipe. But the danger of this is fire supply. If you can picture a fire truck hooking up to a hydrant and they start pumping water out of the system, that pipe's going to actually go dry because there isn't enough volume in this pipe to support that type of activity. And the key component to the water supply obviously is the fire supply. The peak flows, the fire supply, and the health and safety of the supply. So this came out of a contract that we did about 4 years ago in the West End. It was about a $7 million project. And we replaced about 38,000 feet of 6-inch pipe like this and replaced it with 8-inch pipe. So we've got a better supply, better fire supply. That helps with insurance rates in the city. And it's just modernizing our system for the supply of water to the communities. This pipe right here is probably well over 100 years old. Well over 100 years old. What we replace systems with now, some communities are using plastic pipe now. The city of New Bedford uses ductile iron. It's cement lined. You don't get this problem in a cement lined pipe because one of the components of our operations maintain a neutral pH. Our pH is actually a little bit elevated, so you don't get this migration of metal into the pipe. We still have a lot of work to do. There's well over 300 miles of system in the city. There's many more. The city originally embarked on a repair effort in the city. What they did is they cleaned and they relined the pipes, but we still have a lot of water main breaks from that because there's always weak points in systems that have been in the ground that long. Typically what we do now, anything from 6 to 8 inch, we don't clean or reline it anymore. We just replace it, and the value of that is comparable to both, so it's just easier or better and more reliable for us to just replace the systems. Anything bigger than that, 10, 12, 16 inch, we'll clean and reline because they're much more expensive systems to be replacing. And again, we have pipes up to 48 inch in diameter. Well, it's not so much the metal that's expanding and contracting as much as the ground is. Okay. So you get this freeze-thaw cycle in the wintertime. It's New England. We have the toughest environment for water supplies and streets and everything else because of our freeze-thaw cycles. You'll have days, we've all seen days in January, February, or March where, at night it's 10 degrees out and the next day it's 40 or 50 degrees. So you get this freeze-thaw cycle in the ground and the ground's moving. Well, cast iron and ductile iron doesn't like to move. There's only so much of a deflection factor that it can withstand. And if a system's been in the ground for 100+ years and it starts to deflect in the ground from that freeze-thaw cycle, you're going to get a break. And we see actually, probably 80% more breaks in the winter than you would see in the warmer summer, fall, and months of the year in spring. In the spring, our guys are out there. We begin at Quiticus, and we follow our system from Quiticus, which is out in Freetown, all the way to Fort Rodman. Systems are built, so that, flow is always looped and moves in a circle. And what we do is we will systematically go through the distribution system, isolate systems, reverse the flows, and flush the system out of the hydrants to remove any sediment. That begins typically in early spring and doesn't end until the middle of summer. It takes a distinct period of time to move through the city, all the way from Freetown, from north to south, east to west, from a Acushnet line to the Dartmouth line, and flush every single pipe in the city of New Bedford. We also have a valve operating procedure that we go through that begins at the Quiticus plant, goes all the way to High Hill Reservoir, and that actually has to be done mechanically. When you picture a valve that seats in a 48-inch pipe, it takes almost 380 turns to close that valve. It's not something you want to do by hand. So we have truck-mounted valve operators that run off of hydraulics and electricity, and we go out and we take all the valves and we'll bring them all the way down and bring them all up and operate them, just to ensure that they're operational. And you have to do that at least twice a year. And we have tens of thousands of valves in the city of New Bedford, everywhere. Every 500 feet there's a hydrant. So every hydrant has a valve, and every 300 feet there's a valve on a main. And we're out there constantly operating valves. And we're always out there constantly replacing force mains, fixing breaks, replacing lead services.
We're at the High Hill Reservoir site in Dartmouth. Most of the water that we pump from Quiticus at the water treatment plant that we looked at earlier is pumped up to this reservoir. There's an 8-mile long pipeline that travels basically cross-country from Quiticus out in Freetown to Dartmouth. And up to this point. This is the highest point in the area. It's about 220 feet above sea level. And so from here, the water, just by gravity, feeds into the city of New Bedford, and that's how we get adequate pressure for water at our homes in New Bedford. The reservoir is as old as the pump station at Quiticus. It's roughly 100 to 110 years old, was built in the 1890s. And it's made out of granite block, just like the original pump station, and it's about 1,000 feet long and 500 feet wide. Comes out to a little over 11 acres in surface, and it's 23 feet deep. Holds approximately 75 million gallons of water. It's a great storage area for us. It gives us good supply for several days. And from here, as I had said, just by gravity, it feeds into the city of New Bedford. Behind us is the inlet house where the water comes in, and at that point is able to divide and go into the north and south half of the reservoir. We're capable of isolating one side, and just feeding in to either of these sides. Presently we are using both of them. Further over is the outlet building. Essentially the water just goes from east to west and travels through. When it comes out the other side, we then rechlorinate so that we maintain an adequate disinfection level, so that when it does go into the city, it's once again healthy and ready to be consumed. One other item of interest is the fact that this large 11-acre surface is covered, and in 1972 a cover was placed on it, and its purpose is to protect the water. This is treated water from Quiticus, and has to be protected because it's water that's going to be consumed. And so a cover was placed on it so that we do protect it from any outside influences, namely like birds or any animals that could get in it. So we value this water and essentially want to make sure it's protected. And so this cover has served a good purpose in protecting it.
We're currently in the Durfee Street pumping station located at 33 Rose Street. And don't ask me why we call it the Durfee Street pump station, but again, as we mentioned earlier at Quiticus and at the High Hill Reservoir, pressure that comes into your homes is directly related to elevation. There's an area, sort of what we would characterize as a ridge line along Rockdale Avenue, and it's a high service area. And the only way to get water pressure to every home on a ridge line or a high service area like this is to get water at a higher elevation than that ridge. Everybody in the city recognizes the stanchion tank or the water tank on Hathaway Road. This pumping station, the Durfee Street pumping station, pumps water via force main northerly in Rockdale Avenue to that tank. And the tank holds roughly 350,000 gallons of water at an elevation of about 110 feet. That elevation differential is what creates the head pressure that creates water pressure in your homes when you open up a faucet. And it's as simple as that. Elevation relates to pressure. On this ridge line in the city, you've got people on the low pressure side and on the high pressure side. The people at the top of that ridge line have to be on the high pressure side because they don't have enough elevation. So anyone who's on that high pressure side is in a different piping system that's connected to the Hathaway Road Tower. And that's what provides that elevation and that head pressure to provide enough elevation so that when you open up your faucets, water comes out at roughly anywhere between 50 to 60 psi. And that's what you want to see when you're taking a shower, washing your clothes, whatever water you have in your home. And pretty much that's the sole purpose of the tower, is to create pressure on a high ridge line, like Hathaway, like Rockdale Avenue. I kind of like to tell this story. First of all, I've been in charge of the water department now for about 7, 8 years. Time flies when you're having fun. And I've become somewhat of a water connoisseur. Everywhere I go, it's like a wine tasting. I like to drink water from other communities, other states. Everywhere I travel, I taste water. And we're blessed. The city of New Bedford, the residents, our intermunicipal partners, we're blessed with, I think, is one of the richest, most abundant, safest, and tastiest water in the region, and in almost every region that I've been to. And that's in large part, to the operators and to the men and to the women that work in our water systems and, public infrastructure. One thing that's interesting, and a lot of people don't realize this, is we're regulated more thoroughly and more strictly by EPA and DEP than the people who sell bottled water. And water from a community like New Bedford is one of the surest bargains that you can ever envision. For what it costs you to go to a store and buy a bottle of water for lunch, I can deliver to your home 750 gallons for that same price. And where can you get a better bargain than that? And that water, you can be rest assured, is regulated to the utmost degree by the agencies. It's pure, it's safe, it's clean, and it's the best buy that you can get. Technologies change every day. We keep finding ways of looking deeper and deeper and closer at, anything that can be in the water supply, and that's a good thing. The Drinking Water Act was promulgated by Congress in 1974, and the regulations have consistently changed with our abilities in the scientific community to look closer at any of the constituents in the water supply. So as regulations change, our requirements change, and that's all geared towards ensuring that the water supply is safe for the public. And it's a continuing educational effort on our part to educate our operators, educate our lab staff, increase our testing capabilities and meet those federal requirements. And we do that, and we do that well. The biggest challenge for us is maintenance and capital investment. We're an old water system. You know, early in the program, I'm sure you saw some of the pipe coupons that we removed with that sedimentation in those pipes. We still have systems like that citywide. We have pumping stations like this Durfee Street pumping station. They run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our water treatment plant runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's a constant need for maintenance. There's a constant need for upgrade. There's a constant need for improvement and oversight. It takes talent, it takes hard work, it takes investment, and again, we're an old coastal community. There's a lot of systems in the ground that have been here a good number of years. We have water main breaks where the systems have been in the ground for well over 100 years. It's a constant battle, and the community needs to understand that this is an investment in the future of New Bedford when we maintain these and we improve these. And it's an economic development tool as well. Industry who wants to locate to New Bedford knows they're going to get a quality product delivered in an assured manner that's safe and usable. Call our office at Liberty Street. The number is 508-979-1556. If you have any kind of questions, we'd be more than willing to help answer those. Keep in mind, water is a commodity. There are communities around the continental United States that would pray to have the supply and the quality water that we have here in New Bedford. Out in the Midwest, Texas, for instance, they're in drought conditions that have been going on now for a couple of years. And those are serious things when you look at fire supply, which is critical. Peak flow capacities are critical. Quality of water is critical. We've been blessed in New Bedford to have such a great water supply.
When it comes to seasonal flu, bird flu, or the threat of a worldwide flu pandemic, there's a lot of talk, theories, and guesses.
But while there's a lot we don't know about what might happen, there's a lot we do know about how to help protect you and your family.
That's why the Massachusetts Department of Public Health wants you to have the most accurate information available.
We promise to keep you informed throughout the flu season. When you know the facts, there's less to fear. Visit our website, mass.gov/dph/flu, to get the flu facts.
Happy birthday, dear Corinne. Happy birthday to you.
Your choice to recycle can affect more people than you think. Call Marissa at 508-979-1493 to request your free recycling bins. This message was brought to you by the City of New Bedford and UMass Dartmouth Charlton School of Business.
Hey, I'm Chef Ming Tsai. I love to cook, and the most important ingredient I use is safety. That's because cooking is the #1 cause of home fires and related injuries. To prevent fires in your kitchen, always stand by your pan when cooking. And if something should flare up, put a lid on it. It's the safest and quickest way to put out a cooking fire.
This message is brought to you by the Office of the State Fire Marshal.
For more safety tips, check out our website.
No matter where you live, life in the ocean depends on you. To help protect our ocean, recycle and dispose of your trash properly. To learn what you can do, go to keepoceansclean.org.
Bye.